Facts First presents. Kim Kardashian revealed where her dad stashed secret O.J. Simpson evidence in their home. When O.J. Simpson's ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend Ron Goldman were both found stabbed to death outside of her home in Brentwood, California, June 12, 1994, a media frenzy began, and it wouldn't end for years. Tales of the murders would continue for decades. The case was so high-profile because O.J. Simpson was the main suspect in the murders. O.J. Simpson married his first wife, Marguerite L. Wiley, in 1967 when he was just 19 years old. 10 years later, he met a waitress at the Daisy nightclub, Nicole Brown. While still married to Marguerite, he started dating Nicole. O.J.'s marriage ended in 1979, and he waited 6 more years before marrying Nicole. They had 2 children together, Sydney and Justin. The couple did not have a happy relationship, and they broke up often. There were many times the police had to be called in to the couple's home for domestic violence. Simpson was charged once with spousal abuse in 1989, and he pleaded no contest. 3 years later, Nicole wanted out of the marriage and filed for divorce. Just because they were divorced, the couple did not stay apart. They got back together a few times, but quickly things would go back to the way they were. October 25, 1993, Nicole called the police. She could be heard on a recording crying, warning the dispatcher that her husband was going to beat her up. After that incident took place, Nicole ended things for good. Less than a year later, Nicole and Ron were found brutally stabbed to death. Nicole had been stabbed so many times in the head and neck that her head was barely attached to her body. She also had stab wounds on her hands from trying to protect herself. By the time the police found her, she and Ron had been dead for 2 hours. The case resulted in round-the-clock coverage. The media was all over the story, and for 300 days it received front-page placement in the Los Angeles Times. Between the time of the murder in 1994 and 1997, there were over 2,000 televised news pieces about the murder, the case, and the trial. At the scene, the police found the infamous bloody glove. When officers went to inform O.J. of his wife's murder, they found a second glove on his property with blood on it. The blood contained DNA from both victims, and this gave the police enough evidence to arrest O.J., and he hired attorney Robert Shapiro to lead his defense team. Shapiro brought on other attorneys to form what the media dubbed the Dream Team. When O.J. wrote letters to his mother and his children, Robert Shapiro worried about his mental state. He asked his longtime friend, A.J. Cowlings, to drive him up Interstate 405 in a white Ford Bronco. When the police caught up to them, A.J. told them that O.J. had a gun to his head threatening suicide. Over 20 police cars followed the Bronco going 35 miles per hour. Every TV station cut into their regularly scheduled programming to televise the chase. They even cut into the 1994 NBA Finals to show it. Robert Kardashian was O.J. Simpson's best friend and his former college roommate. He was also one of Simpson's lawyers during the trial. Robert and his former wife Chris were very close friends with both O.J. and Nicole. When the murders took place, the family was fractured because Robert supported O.J. Chris was sure that he was guilty of killing her best friend. Sadly, their children were stuck in the middle of the whole thing. Robert worked hard to prove his friend's innocence, and he would often keep piles of evidence in his home. He left everything in a place where his daughter and future reality star Kim Kardashian could find them and go through them herself. The trial was considered to be the trial of the century. It was televised live on television and was one of the most-watched programs on television. The evidence against Simpson was overwhelming. Stunningly, 100 million people tuned in to watch the jury send down their verdict October 3, 1995, and they found him not guilty on all charges. Some believed that they found him not guilty in fear of riots that might break out, similar to the riots a few years earlier. One person who was no longer sure of O.J.'s innocence was Robert Kardashian. He said that the blood evidence was a thorn in his side, and he doubted his friend. And that is what ended their friendship. Fast forward 25 years. Robert Kardashian had long since passed away from esophageal cancer. His ex-wife and his children are the biggest reality stars in the world and are worth millions. His daughter, Kim Kardashian West, interviewed with Vogue magazine where she admitted to having a first-hand look at the trial. She said that on weekends the Dream Team used her father's home as an office, and she was often there on the weekends. Her father hid plenty of evidence from the case in his house, and Kim knew where it was. Kim revealed where her dad stashed secret O.J. Simpson evidence in their home. He had a library in his house, and if you push one of the walls in, it'll open up to a hidden closet, which was where all the files were placed. When her father wasn't around, she would even go through the records, trying to figure out if the man that she once called her uncle was actually a murderer. Do you believe O.J.'s innocent or guilty? Tell us in the comments below and subscribe for more.